Hi, Reggie. Thanks for joining us today. We have prepared some questions about Gather, and I'm really looking forward to ask them. Um,
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Lihan. I'm looking forward to answering them.
awesome. Um, could you please tell us about yourself and maybe about your team?
For sure. About me, I started my career in oil and gas back in like 2011, 2012, or even
Mm,
earlier, I think. I was managing a base out of Iraq, about 200 employees or so, and revenues of about $200,000 per month. Yeah, 200 people. Was there when ISIS invaded, which was
mm,
a very interesting experience, evacuating all those employees when all the shooting and bombs were going off. That was quite fun.
wow.
Yeah. So after all of that, I said I wanted nothing to do with oil and gas ever again.
Mm,
And I ended up joining advertising.
mm,
Uh, so I was based at Dubai at that point, and then I moved into advertising with a company called Publicis Group. So I
mm,
bounced around different agencies for a bit. They actually hired me because of my oil and gas experience, and they didn't have
mm,
anyone who had technical knowledge for oil and gas. So bounced around different agencies, and I had my first stint with my first startup after that, which was a tech-enabled personal concierge that pivoted into a logistics platform. So if you
mm,
know Deliveroo or Uber Eats, you know the
mm,
technology behind it, like where you see the rider moving around or placing orders. We
mm,
built that kind of technology essentially. So working with banks, working with restaurants, supermarkets, etc., etc.
mm, mm,
And then I was hired 2 years after that. I was hired as a consultant for
mm,
a publisher of how to
mm,
monetize. And that's where Gather kind of started. And in
mm,
terms of my crypto experience, my first exposure to crypto was in college, like
mm.
a long time ago. Me and one of the former founders were roommates, and being college kids at that time, we were extremely broke, right? And Bitcoin was like 600 pounds or something. So we bought Litecoin instead. And that was, yeah.
That means you're rich.
Well, I don't know what happened to them. I think they sold. But yeah, then I got heavy into mining in about 2017, I would say, using
Mm,
NiceHash specifically. And that's what really
mm,
intrigued me was always proof of work.
mm,
Other than that, I mean, I've been born in India, lived most of my life in Dubai, and Canada as well, UK, and a bunch of other places.
mm,
Been traveling around for a bit, but right now, Dubai is home for me. Yeah.
mm, mm. Awesome, awesome.
So
Yeah.
in terms of the team, right? So we have our CTO,
Mm,
Ashish. He's got about 20 years or more experience in the cloud domains, working with multinational conglomerates all over the world.
mm,
We have Farouk, our CFO. He's worked with likes of KPMG, Grant Thornton, and he's a very big crypto trader as well, and investor. He's been in the space for a while. He builds tokenomics, etc. Like he's built the Gather tokenomics along with the advisory
mm,
board. We have our CMO Lihan, about 19 years in sales and marketing specifically.
mm,
He was attached to another project called Colossus XT for a little bit,
mm,
so understands what it takes to be in terms of crypto marketing. And we have
mm,
another founder called Udit who looks after administration and more of a startup guy.
mm,
And then we have a bunch of developers all over the world.
mm,
Ukraine, split between Ukraine and India.
mm,
Um, then other staff, marketing,
mm.
administration again, legal. Stephen. Everyone thinks Stephen looks like Bradley Cooper. If you look at his picture, it's the most hilarious
Mm.
thing on earth. And advisory board is from all over again. So we have Narain, vice president of Publicis Group, and he joined us. Then we have Charles and Bradley. They're from Rarestone Capital.
Mm,
Patrick, he's been a CFO for a very, very long time. And he's,
mm,
advising, not advising, but he's helping with financials for a lot of other blockchain startups. So he understands the niches and he helps Farouk a
mm.
lot with the financials. And we have John Kim, who's, he joined us from the very beginning. He was, I think, our first advisor back when we raised our seed round in 2018. Mining expert, if you will, proof of work.
Awesome. How did you come up with such a great team?
Um, so the original founding team was me, Farouk, Udit, and Gabe. And I had known Udit because of my previous startup. Farouk I've
Mm,
known for many, many years. And Gabe was my
mm,
roommate.
mm,
Along the way, we
mm,
lost Gabe. Um,
mm,
and we just I mean, in 3 years, it takes time to find good people. So we just kept
Mhm,
looking,
mhm.
kept looking, kept looking, and slowly but surely we built a really fantastic team. And we hired two more people within this week as well. For one is the head of enterprise sales, and the other is in the marketing team as well.
Awesome, awesome. This is such a great team. And
Thanks.
so actually, it's my second interview. I like 2 months ago, I interviewed one of your team members. So I approximately know what you guys do, but for the viewers for the viewers that haven't heard about Gather, could you please explain briefly about your project?
For sure, for sure. So Gather, should I go with the backstory or what it is right now?
As you wish. So in a
Okay.
way that's comfortable for you.
Okay, sure. I think this might be a little interesting for some people. Like Gather started with the objective of just providing publishers an alternative form of monetization without
Mm,
having to rely on ads. This was back in 2018 when we raised our seed round.
mm,
The
mm,
backstory was we raised a seed round, in 2018 of $300,000,
mm,
which was nothing. Back in 2018, people were raising like 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, and then you have people like Ton who raised what was it, $1 billion. Yeah, they raised $1 billion. So our objective was, let's take only what we need, build a
mm,
POC, present
mm,
it, and then
mm,
see what happens from there. So we raised the 300. We went and we presented something called Rise Hong Kong, which is a tech conference that happens every year.
mm,
Instantly a hit. Everyone loves it. It just made sense. Publishers signed up with us, and they were like, okay, we need to raise more funds so we can scale up and build more.
mm,
But the bear market hit, so we got screwed. In all honesty, uh, yeah. So what we did is we basically funded with life savings, and as they say in crypto, we lived the ramen life for 2.5 years, I think, which
mm,
was
mm,
tough, as most people in the bear market would know.
mm,
Um, and yeah, the first version of the product was just mining other cryptocurrencies
mm,
and paying out to publishers in fiat, et cetera, et cetera. What
mm,
Gather is today is very, very different. We're
mm,
actually mining Gather. Specifically, we're mining, okay, there's three core facets to Gather: Gather Online, Gather Enterprise, and Gather Cloud. Gather Online is targeted towards publishers,
mm,
provides an alternate form of monetization. You can use it with ads, you can use it without ads. Gather
mm,
Cloud, all this processing power. So when you visit a
mm,
website that has Gather enabled, you're going to see a very small cookie kind of disclaimer, right? Once you opt in, that processing power is being used to secure the Gather blockchain, right?
mm,
And part of it is being resold on to enterprise and developers for a much cheaper cost compared to centralized solutions. And this is a
mm,
decentralized network as well.
mm,
So that's where Gather Cloud comes in. It's the other arm where they basically do sales and marketing to large enterprises. During this bear market period,
mm.
I mean, we were doing whatever we could to try to raise funds and extend runway, even though the ramen life was horrible. Uh, we landed our first $1 billion client with zero budgets, with nothing, but just based on
Mhm.
proof of concept of what we were doing, etc. Called Goldrich Industries. And in a nutshell, that's what Gather is. It's a platform that allows publishers to monetize without having to rely on ads, and provides developers and enterprises cheaper form of cloud computing. And the last part, the third part, is people can actually come and deploy on top of the Gather blockchain as well. It's a
Yeah,
layer one
very
and a layer two.
very interesting. Very interesting. So basically, you guys allow users get rid of the ads, but instead let them provide computing resources that benefits the advertiser, the service provider. So
Correct.
that's the whole picture, right?
So on one end, the publisher, if once they're running Gather, they're
Mm,
earning revenue. They can share their revenue with their users if they want. And on the
mm,
other end, the enterprises or developers, right? They have access to cheaper compute and storage,
mm, mm.
essentially.
That's very interesting, and also I guess the whole digital advertising market is a huge market.
Yeah.
So how large do you see the size of the market opportunity?
From what I recall, roughly, I think the total addressable market was somewhere around 300 billion range.
Mm,
And the cloud computing market was again around the 300 billion range. So you're looking at a combined market of almost 600 odd billion, but that's again total addressable market. So you got to take that number with a little bit of a grain of salt, if you will, right? But the market is absolutely huge. I think any business, any tech-enabled business, one of their largest costs right now is cloud solutions, right? It's very, very expensive. And for advertisers, it's very interesting. I was talking to someone who has a large following on TikTok, but they've only earned off these millions of users and viewers like $2,000 a month. The payout rates for what people are earning on advertising right now on monetization via ads are completely horrible.
Yeah, and it's also very inefficient as well. So like, still a lot of users are seeing ads that are irrelevant to themselves.
Yep.
And that also means that that payers pay money that doesn't have any meaning. So
Correct.
they're simply wasting money.
Yeah, it's also a lot of fraud that goes on in the industry. You know, I think one of the biggest things is rampant fraud is something called programmatic fraud. So you have in advertising something called performance and programmatic. Performance is more like social media, etc. Programmatic is something called, a good example is something called double click, right? These are ads that are placed strategically, for lack of a better word, programmatically, technologically, right? On different various sites using different distribution networks. And there's a lot of fraud that happens in programmatic because it's a very murky area. You know, not everything is very transparent about what are the rates you're getting, who are the vendors being involved, right? For it's very standard practice, I would say, that's, you know, right? You're going to hire an agency, they're going to outsource it to another agency somewhere who's termed a specialist on your contract. But in reality, both those agencies are owned by the same group.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess the blockchain could play a role to make the whole process much more transparent, and thereby you guys can solve the problem. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit about that aspect?
For sure. It definitely can, because there's so many problems with advertising right now. I mean, the lack of transparency is ridiculous, right? It'll help with the transparency aspect to see where the money is being spent on, how many clicks are actually happening. Are these actually real clicks, real people, or is it, you know, a bunch of bots at the end of the day? But the core problem right now is, without a lack of a better word, clickbait. Or a very large problem is that a lot of people are creating content or writing content that is just forcing users to click on a title, so they go to a landing page and they get hit with that, right? And what that's doing is that you're seeing the quality of content dropping overall the web, because content creators are being forced to do this at the end of the day, right? Because this is what the advertising model does right now. So I think it's more on a shift of, because advertisers are relying on the monetization model that rewards users for clicks, we're seeing more crappy content come out. That's why, you know, Gather can solve that. Basically, we pay based on time spent, essentially. Of course, you have genuine publishers out there that are creating quality content, but they're not, you know, they're struggling. Some of them are struggling to monetize properly. They might have like a paywall. Economist is a very, very good example of that, right? You go to the Economist, you have like 3 free articles or something, and then you got to pay. They do have some good articles. I would love to actually read Economist if it was free, but, you know, whatever, it's like $5 or that's fine. But if you think about someone, let's say a small kid in Africa, right? Like just taking a random example, where the poverty line is so low, etc. And all they usually have is smartphones. They're not going to be spending $5 every month or year or whatever to access the Economist, even though that's a lot of education, possible education.
Exactly. So your solution could solve that specific problem, right?
Correct. It could. It could help stop clickbait content for sure, because content creators are then going to be more focused on creating content that keeps their users on their page, which will eventually lead to quality content over quantity.
Yeah, I can see that. And I guess this backwards, this mechanism itself could like reinforce the whole ecosystem to create better content and better user experience, and yeah, it could really work as an upward spiral. So I think
100%.
it's very amazing what you guys do.
Thanks. Took us some time to get here. Actually, like a publisher got there was a payout that was done I think last week, And it was because there was a couple of publishers that we allowed on because we just launched the mainnet for Gather Online. And he earned $30,000 in 1 week. And everyone's like, oh my God, oh my God. We're like, guys, it's technicality, relax. But good for him. He earned 30K.
Awesome. Because you guys, instead of like writing up white papers and raising large money, because you guys started from real business opportunities, starting very small and grew. Could you share us some numbers of your number of clients and number of users and that already benefit from Gather?
Sure. I think we had like last signed up completely across the board in terms of publishers was somewhere about 350, 400. I don't know the exact rates numbers. I'll just sort of throw out and say it must be between 400 and 500 because I know they're starting media buying campaigns right now. In terms of cloud providers, I think we have 11 active leads going on. And then we do have Godrej and we have a few other clients on the cloud side as well in terms of users. In terms of sessions, because the main metric for Gather or a publisher is the time spent per session and the total amount of sessions. But sessions go in the hundreds of millions if we talk about all of the combined websites and publishers. Because you have very large websites and you have small websites, you have streaming websites, you have games, all of those.
Awesome. So in terms of mass adoption, I guess if maybe like 60 or 70% of the whole internet population could benefit from your solution, it would be great for the whole industry. So how far are we away from such a mass adoption, and what are maybe some challenges that hinders from such a mass adoption right now?
So it's a very interesting question because it changes year on year, right? 2 years ago, what was the biggest hindrance for us was probably the fact that we're a blockchain company and a crypto company. So there's always like a little bit of a perception issue that's involved. While that still stands today, it's a lot easier, right? Because crypto is what it is right now. Everyone's, even though everyone's very hot on like meme coins and Shiba and all that, dog crap, if you will. Jesus. The biggest hurdle for us right now is that it's a scale game, right? And we're talking about new technology. It's like when the internet was first invented or when Uber was first a thing, right? Like here's a very famous story. Travis Kalanick, when he founded Uber, he went around to so many different investors, so many different people, and he actually started as a limo company. I don't know if many people know this. He started as a limo company, and he raised his first round at Rise Hong Kong. And then kept pivoting, and it took him a very long time to actually get Uber to where it was let's say a P2P based ride-sharing platform. So it's a similar kind of issue, is that once you get enough large clients aboard or notable clients, if you will, then people start to FOMO. They see, hey, XYZ is using Gather and they're earning XYZ or whatever. Why aren't we, right? So it's about getting those first. I'm not talking about like small or medium websites or clients. I'm talking about large recognizable brands, right? Because it's just like when you're investing in something, when you see Sequoia Capital invest in something, another VC is going to go and be like, oh, Sequoia Capital invested, they probably did their due diligence, somebody just put in money. It's the same thing here, is that they see, okay, let me take a random example. Time.com is using Gather. They've probably done their due diligence. We should start using Gather as well. So that's the initial hurdle. And over time it'll go, because the earnings are there. It's very clear. It's transparent. It's on chain, so everyone can see that as well.
And do you get feedback from those service providers using Gather? So, what are those maybe qualitative feedbacks from them comparing to traditional digital advertisement and Gather?
Sure. I think right now what kind of feedback we're getting is like. Here's one. The ability to turn on and off the script, like if you've opted in or on, or via a button. Some other feedback we've gotten is about the analytics at the back end to add certain numbers or certain tracking data that they would like. About also wrapping the option to immediately wrap within terms and conditions rather than cookies. So we're getting good feedback. Just about additional feature requests mainly, but for the core platform itself. When people are using it, you don't notice anything. Like it's not, my alarm. Once you're once you're opted in, you don't notice anything. It does not hog your system resources, and that's the beauty of it. And that's the core. The core solution works.
That sounds to be a great feedback from the payers. So I guess you guys have a bright future ahead. So yeah. Let's shift a little bit about this topic. I heard that you guys lately also got involved into NFTs. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that issue?
For sure. So since I think November of last year, we've been opening batches of masternodes. Masternodes are a very big part of Gather because they serve as the backbone for the blockchain. This is actually where a lot of the storage and processing power also comes from enterprises, because while you're seeing processing power being used from the browser, it's for limited use cases, and you can't actually store stuff via the browser. So these masternodes play a very large role. And we have 4 batches that have gone out, which is I think about 80 or 90 nodes signed up right now. And now we're having a 5th batch come out. So the thing is, right, once you're running a node, right, you've locked up your tokens as your collateral. If you want to exit, what are you going to do? You're going to shut down your node and you're going to sell your tokens on the open market, right? Which is going to cause price volatility at the end of the day, especially if it's a large amount of tokens. So instead of doing that, what we thought is, why don't we airdrop all masternode holders an NFT? We connect it to OpenSea or some kind of auction house. And instead of people having to shut down their nodes and sell their tokens, they can sell their NFT. And the NFT represents ownership of that masternode. So tokens never actually go on the primary market and get sold. You don't have that price volatility, but masternode owners can hop in and out. And because we have different cost bases for each masternode batch, for example, the first batch was the cheapest. I wish I was in the first batch, because the payouts and the ROI has been great for people. I mean, back then a masternode cost like $5,000, and it's paid itself like 6 or 7 times up right now. So you're going to see people wanting to buy into earlier batches, etc. So that's what you're doing, is creating a secondary marketplace that doesn't affect the primary market.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Another question would be towards your community. I also heard that your community has grown very rapidly recently. And how are the numbers right now?
I think the total community is around 30,000 across all mediums, all Telegram groups, all Twitter, Facebook, etc., around there. I do love our community. They're amazing, especially in the price action room. It's great. They do this thing where someone comes and puts a slash and it says something. And it's like, we have one of our spokespersons, if you will, his name is, on Twitter, is Korean Jew Trading. It's hilarious. They say, Korean Jew, Poopy Pants KJ. And the story behind that is that he made a prediction that when Gather hits $5, he's going to, excuse my language, shit himself on YouTube in a live stream.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. I think everyone's very excited to see that. So the community is great. Gotta love the community. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah. Hopefully he survives. All right. Okay. So I guess this is my last question. How is your plan towards the rest of the year?
We have Minerva and Jupiter coming out. So each has their own set of features, which is child chains, which is a very big part of Gather, as well as the layer 2 kind of solution where people can come and deploy on Gather. There's some interesting info. We're just waiting to release to the public about child chains, which is, I'm sure everyone, all the community will love that. Then there's the cloud releases as well, the public cloud releases, and then just more feature sets. But from here onwards, it's scale. It's all about scale and acquisition. Because I mean, for people who've seen me talk or speak, we don't treat Gather as a project. We run it like a business, specifically with KRAs, with KPIs. We fired co-founders. I'm not the end all and all like, or end all, or the overlord or whatever it may be. We even had a call the other day about a certain topic we wanted to discuss. And that's how we do things here. We treat it like a business because that's the way we personally, not just me, because a lot of people in the team are entrepreneurs or have had their own businesses, etc. And that's how we feel that we should be approaching this, right? It brings transparency and accountability at the end of the day.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so great to hear that we can find a project that has standards like of a real business, which should be applied to every crypto project actually. But unfortunately, there's so much liquidity and money flowing that most project doesn't feel that
care.
needs for
they just don't care. I mean, in today's day and age where people are launching the most absurd names of coins on BSC, I don't know what the latest one, Honk, I think it was called Honk or some crap. It's ridiculous right now. This is the state of the market. Great.
Yeah. So that's reality. But on the other hand, we still have great product like you guys. So it gives a lot of assurance to somebody like me who bets my career towards the future of the blockchain industry. So in that aspect, I really appreciate your work and your challenges and your efforts.
Thank you.
Moving step by step.
Thank you. I mean, these meme coins and stuff, whatever they may be, they're not going to survive when the bear market comes because let's be very real, it's going to come around, whenever it may be. I don't know when it's going to come around. And that's the thing is that projects with fundamentals that are doing this the right way, not just us, but other ones as well, they're the ones that are going to survive and thrive and do well, right? These stupid meme coins or whatever, baseless coins, non-teams, they're not.
For sure. And hopefully we can have another opportunity in next year or 5 years ahead.
100%.
And I'm really looking forward for your project success, for Gather success.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Reggie, for taking the time for this interview. And okay, and hope you everything well for the future.
Thanks, Lihan. Thank you for the time. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.